The 2028 End of the World Countdown Clock. This clock is set to Feast of Trumpets 2028. The day Jesus' return is right at the doors. No one knows the day or the hour. First impressions of this website, it looks like another date setter that'll eventually be proven wrong by time. This website is based on the book written by Gabriel Ansley Erb. This website also runs 2 YouTube channels, 10 Love Commandments and 2028 End. This website is also trying to sell us a book, but we'll look past that for now. What I want to know is how we concluded with the 2028 end date. To find my answers, I had to watch his 10-part video seminar. And this is what I found. His main evidence is the fig tree. So let's look at Matthew chapter 24, verses 32 to 34. This is what it says. The parable of the fig tree. Now learn this parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So you also, when you see all these things, know that it or he is near at the doors. Assuredly, I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. So how do you get 2028 from that? Well, let's look at Hosea chapter 9, verse 10. In it, God tells us that when he found Israel, it reminded him of the first fruits on a fig tree. In a parable, one thing represents another thing. So he superimposes Hosea 9:10 onto Matthew 24, 32 to 34. The fig tree becomes Israel. And Israel sprouted its leaves. It became a nation in 1948. So the end is near, and it will happen before that generation passes away. So how long is a generation? Well, Gabriel Ansley Erb cited Psalms 90:10. In it, we learned that our years are 70 or 80. So he decided to go with the latter date of 80, and he added it to the day Israel became a nation. 1948 plus 80, 2028. This is his undeniable biblical proof. At first, it sort of made sense. But once you read the chapters again and again, his argument begins to melt away. So let's break it down. Let's take a look at Genesis chapter 6, verse 3. In it, we learn that our years are going to be 120. Same book, chapter 15, verses 14 through 16. We learn that Abraham is told that his descendants would be enslaved and oppressed for 400 years. In 4 generations, they would return. This makes one generation 100 years. All of these could be narrated as undeniable biblical proof. But Gabriel Ansley Erb is dead set that 80 is the correct number of a generation. 80 is perfect for his timeline. And his timeline hinges on the fact that Israel is the fig tree. Now, I want you to read the entire chapter of Matthew 24. After reading the entire chapter, you will discern the fact that the fig tree has nothing to do with a generation. The fig tree is used as a comparison that compares the sure coming of summer to the sure coming of Jesus Christ after the signs have been observed. The fig tree is used as a simile, not as a code word for Israel. Gabriel Ansley Erb cherry-picked that verse and took it out of context. This renders his 2028 End of the World Countdown Clock void. In his book, he tells us that Jesus will return 2,000 years after his death. And according to him, that day is 2028. Therefore, Jesus died in AD 28. Now for his book, he used the same faulty interpretation of the fig tree. So should we take his book seriously? Now don't get me wrong, he does present a lot of interesting theories. For example, he says that life is a game and that God gets pleasure from watching us play the game, similar to when we watch a game of football and get pleasure from watching the game. He also says that the earth will exist a total of 7,000 years and that we are nearing the final millennium. This is based off of creation story found in Genesis, and that one of God's days equals 1,000 years. Now I found those very interesting because he gives us biblical proof of what happens during each millennium. You gotta go check that out at least. But as far as his end of the world countdown clock, in conclusion, I am aware of the fact that he has received miraculous confirmations pertaining to the perfect number 28. In my opinion, this doesn't help his case. If you watch his fig tree explanation video on his YouTube channel called 2028 End, you'll notice that the comments are turned off for some reason. Now, I don't want to straight up call him a liar, but be aware that people do make mistakes and that misinterpretations do happen. If you guys agree with me, give this video a thumbs up. I want you guys to have a good day and always be prepared.